All right, here we go. Adam22, welcome back.
Hello, sir. How you doing?
Hey, man, always a pleasure when you come here.
Hey, appreciate that.
Yeah, man, congrats on No Jumper, still growing every time.
Just hit 4 million subs.
You hit 4 million subs.
Yeah.
Okay. I think you're going to pass me at some point.
Nah.
I'm at like 4.8 maybe.
The other day I looked at like how many views you do per day, and I won't get too deep into the social blade, but I was definitely like, all right, yeah, we ain't touching Vlad. He got crazy numbers. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think view-wise, we're the biggest channel in the hip-hop space, but we also roll things out differently than everyone else. Brilliant methodology to the way you roll it out. We've tried it, but nah, it doesn't work for you?
I mean, it's okay, but I just feel like the essence of a No Jumper interview is like the long sit down. Like you structure your shit very well for the clips. I feel like my style is more just kind of like drawn out, casual conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we all have our authenticity in terms of what we do, and we've all set up our, our platforms to do well. And, like, for example, me and academics talk about how me, you, and academics, and how we have this really cool personal business relationship, and how we've all been on each other's platforms, and none of us ever talk bad about each other, and we all kind of support each other, and we all like help each other out behind the scenes is really like, I feel, the blueprint of how people could function in the same business, in the same space, and technically be competitors, but actually win by all working together instead of actually
it doesn't
competing.
have to be that way. You know, like you could very easily imagine, and there's probably a lot of media landscapes. Like when I was in the BMX world, all the other BMX sites, we all fucking hated each other. But the reality is that we were fighting over a very, very small pool of potential advertisers and potential views in comparison to this, where it's like we're all millionaires off doing our content. And I'm sure you see me sometimes get an interview that you're like, oh, I wish I got that. Academics could probably say that about you or me or whatever. But it's like there's so much to cover and so much money to be made that it's kind of, I think it's good that we don't end up bickering that much.
Yeah, and whoever is taking the stance that they feel they can get ahead by dissing me or talking shit about me on their platform, you might get a few more views that particular day, but you'd be a lot better off working with me and us actually growing together and sharing information and, working with each other's platforms, because in the long run, that will always win out.
Yeah. I agree, 100%.
Well, let's get into what's happening right now. And I think that we really can't start the interview off without talking about what is now 9 people dead at Travis Scott's Astroworld festival.
Crazy.
I'm not a festival guy myself. I'll be honest. I haven't been to a festival probably in like 20 years.
Right.
Facts. Like I've been to concerts here and there, but a big full-blown festival, I have not been at. And, whatever these modern festivals are, I don't know how similar they are to the ones that are happening in the 90s and 2000s. But as someone that does go to these festivals, you cover a lot of these, you attend them, you're in the mix, you're in the crowd, you're backstage and so forth. Number one, do you feel that Travis Scott, what is his level of responsibility in terms of the 9 people that are dead right now?
Well, first off, I want to say that I wholeheartedly agree with you about not enjoying going to festivals, because at this point in my life, I just find it to be the most overwhelming, like as a fan. Like I remember I was at Coachella with my girl and a couple other girls. We went to see Lil Uzi. I like almost literally could not see him from where we were standing all the way in the back of the crowd. Like it's just a miserable viewing experience from my perspective. Now, a lot of kids love them and stuff, and obviously when I go to festivals, usually I'm seeing it more from like a backstage perspective, and we can get content done and everything like that is cool. But I will say though that I think people have been like a little too eager to heap the blame on Travis Scott, when in reality, I think the blame is like more accurately distributed amongst a lot of people, hundreds and maybe thousands of different employees and people who were there. It just seems like there was like an overall failure. It's kind of easy to just put that on Travis Scott. But from my perspective, every time I ever seen, I've been on stage with Thug and Future and all these really big artists and stuff, just sort of seeing what it's like for them to go out, get on stage, perform. And what I think people don't understand is that like rappers are just in their own world during that time. It's like understood that there could be fights backstage, there could be this going on, there could be that. None of it's the artist's business when they're performing. The artist just can't be concerned with that. When you're looking out at 50,000 people, like a single fight is not going to be something that even registers in your mind. Whereas, but there is like a lot of room, I think, too, to kind of say like, well, why didn't he have concern about all these ambulances that were out there, or all these like people that seem to be being carried away and stuff? But I mean, I also just think it's hard for people to put themselves in the perspective of, performing for that many people, and how, if I'm Travis Scott in that situation, I'm just assuming that the venue is taking care of any dire circumstances and that I'm going to be notified of it. You have to depend on your team to a certain extent. And if he really wasn't informed by the people out there, that's certainly like a failure on them. And you have to put some of it on him that he kind of put together a team that might not have been ready for this. But I mean, I really feel bad for the guy, because this is going to be a massive stain on his career. And I just think, I think for a lot of people, it's hard to put themselves in his shoes, even though obviously I also want to say rest in peace to the 9 people who died. I mean, that's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, 9 people who are dead, plus hundreds of others that are injured. There's like kids who have their organs stomped on, and, who might not make it, or who might make it and be crippled afterwards. It's a messy, ugly, sad situation. It actually reminded me of what happened at a Puffy celebrity basketball game back in the 90s. If you look at my interview with Gene Deal, he was actually doing security where 9 people got crushed and killed at the celebrity basketball game. Yeah, because people were rushing in, and I guess they had chained the doors to prevent people from sneaking in. Yeah. And then as they rushed that door, like Mike Tyson was showing up and LL Cool J, and everyone was kind of losing their mind, and then people got crushed. Right. 9 people died. Oh my God. And Puffy ultimately did recover from that. Of course, he was not the biggest name back then. This was, Puffy before billionaire Puffy, obviously. I think Bad Boy was just starting out and everything else like that. Right. But it's crazy how you look at a Travis Scott who goes from being one of the most loved, sought after artists in the world. Like who doesn't want a Travis Scott verse on their album? Kanye had a Travis. Kanye did not. Yeah. Kanye had. I mean, on his new album, he doesn't have a Travis Scott verse, but on his previous albums, he has. Drake has a Travis Scott verse. On his new album. Like, everyone wants to work with Travis Scott.
Kanye had like a failed Travis Scott single in the lead up to the album.
Oh, is that what happened?
A lot of people might have forgot about it. Yeah, I guess it didn't make it to the album.
All right, there you go. So I'm saying every major artist wants to work with him. Right. And then this happens, and now you can't even play his music at a venue without getting booed.
Did you saw that clip of all the people booing him and stuff? I wonder how consistent that is, though, because that seemed like kind of like a older, more tame audience. I feel like if you play that, at a SoundCloud rap type show, a DJ said that nobody's going to give a shit. I don't think that the rap fans are going to turn on Travis Scott, but I do think that it's going to present some problems with him with like the brand side of things. Or even, I was thinking, even him dropping an album, like, can he drop that album a year from now?
I see what you're saying. Right, because he went from a McDonald's Travis Scott meal, the most sought after Nike collab, pretty much of the era.
And the crazy thing about it is how the stuff that made you cool and edgy and fun to your audience, like him being this rager dude and him posting pictures of people knocked out at his shows, or him encouraging people to riot, all this kind of stuff. All that shit looks so bad once something absolutely horrible happens, and now all that shit's being used against him. So it's like now it's almost like he has to sort of like reinvent his character in a certain sense, because if he comes out really like saying the same sort of like energy, then people are going to look at him as him like encouraging the kind of stuff that happened at that show. It's just going to be like an incredibly tricky thing for him to navigate. And this is for somebody who's pretty much like flawlessly executed their brand image proposition throughout their career. It's like,
like I said, Travis Scott is at the top of the totem pole. And then when you go and throw in the whole Kylie Jenner in the mix as well, which then elevated his brand that much more. Yeah. There was very few human beings that were on his level, and now he's really looked at as the person responsible for 9 deaths. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that he is responsible, but it's all depends on how you look at it, right? Obviously, the families are probably going to hold him responsible.
That's the scary thing, is like there's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars worth of lawsuits, and I'm sure most of the liability doesn't fall on him. Probably more like the promoters and stuff, but definitely some of it's going to fall on him. It's going to just be years and years drawn out legal battle. And, I've been open on my podcast in the past, basically saying that I don't really like his music and I was never a big fan of him. But I mean, yeah, I feel terrible for the guy. But that being said, I feel like if anybody could wiggle their way out of it, I mean, it's probably gonna be him.
Yeah, I mean, I actually like his music. I'll be honest. I'm not like the biggest fan, but I when he drops a project, I listen to it. You know, I mean, I listen to every song. I listen to all his features. I like him. He's a weird one to me because I don't really consider him like a rapper. Right. He's really more of sort of like
I don't think I can remember anything he ever said. Ever.
Is there any quotables?
It's just he just never did it for me. I'm just not really into it, and you know, it's weird because I remember in the early days of Travis Scott, the rap on him was like, he's an asshole. He's the like people just his whole reputation amongst people I knew was that he's an asshole and he's a copycat because there were so many ad libs that he took from people early on and stuff. The straight up thing, like he just took Future's ad lib and rolled with it, and it just worked, and nobody really like called him out on copying and shit. But that's why it's so amazing to me to see the level that he's gotten to in his career. Where like, did you see this viral TikTok of his like ex-manager talking about how he was the one who bought Travis all his early plays and Twitter followers and shit like that, which I remember hearing about that back in the day. Like, oh, all his numbers are fake. They did the social media audit of his Twitter followers. That shit's all fake. But at a certain point, the music just started hitting and none of that shit mattered.
There's a lawyer, I think, in Houston that's representing 68 victims.
Right.
Where they're saying that the damage will be in the billions.
Right.
And I believe it.
Oh.
I believe it. Because every Tom, Dick, and Harry and Mary who's at that concert could technically sue.
Yeah.
You know, for mental distress. Oh, I saw a dead body. I can't go to work anymore. You know, I'm crippled. My mental health is so bad. I need $1 million to make me feel better. You know, like, but I didn't actually get hurt, but my cousin who went there got hurt, and it really, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to see a lot of this bullshit, and since it's going to be class action lawsuits, and I know how these things work. I've been through them on both sides.
It's not like you get to sue Adam22 or Vlad, where, you know, we're targets for lawsuits, but no, you get to sue Live Nation, Travis Scott, Drake.
Yeah. Drake is getting sued for some reason.
I mean,
you know, like he's getting thrown in. Yeah, and you know something? They all have to get lawyers to defend themselves. They're all going to have to spend probably millions of dollars to defend themselves. But you know something? They have the millions of dollars to spend, and they've signed up for this. And quite honestly, I feel like Travis has been somewhat reckless in his approach. You know what I'm saying? In terms of telling people to sneak in. That's really going to bite him. That's going to bite him.
Yeah.
When he's telling people to go ahead and sneak in, you're creating a situation of an overflow that you know that you're not, you know, you don't have the security to actually deal with this. That right there is like the gotcha.
There's so much shit you can get away with when you're small that you just can't at all once you get bigger. That's true about copyright infringement shit, where I see smaller clothing brands making shit all the time that I'm just like, oh my God, I would get my fucking pantsuit off if I put that on a t-shirt, you know, with different like copyright trolls who want to get on you for using a photograph inappropriately. Back in the day when we used to, you know, like I would see a fight on Hollywood Boulevard and just put it on my story or put it on my Instagram. And then like at a certain point I started to realize like, oh, I have enough followers that this kid's family is going to hit me up of the dude who got punched, and they're going to tell me that they're going to sue me if I don't delete the video, et cetera, et cetera. Like things that just don't matter at all when you're unpopular all of a sudden are huge. But there's a lot of bumps in the road on the way there. Obviously Travis Scott is like at the end of the road pretty much. He's about as big as he could get. But I mean, yeah, a lot of the stuff that he might have said on Twitter in 2015 is just going to make him look like shit from now on, I guess.
Yep. I mean, look, Chris Brown beat up Rihanna, and he ultimately recovered.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say that without that speed bump, he'd be way bigger now? He'd be Michael Jackson level? Maybe. Maybe not. Hard to say. R. Kelly had a video of him urinating on a underage female.
Yeah.
He recovered. He came out with hit records. You know, Puffy, like I said, 9 people dead. He ultimately recovered.
Mm-hmm.
Tory Lanez remains to be seen, but it seems like he's doing pretty well overall, considering how crazy that situation is. Do you think that at the end of the day, Travis Scott will be right back at the high level that he was a week ago? at some point, maybe a year, 2 years, 5 years down the line, or do you think he'll never get back up to that level again because of this? Will always be kind of like the asterisk.
Musically, yeah, I think he'll get back to that level or at least close to it. That being said, commerce wise, like business wise, I think this is going to hurt him a lot for a very substantial period of time. At the end of the day, are the fans going to really care about this a year from now? I mean, like some will, like some extremely, concerned people might still care, but it's really all about the music. But it's also about like how people perceive him as he drops that music, because like 6ix9ine used to make gangster music and everybody went crazy for it. Now 6ix9ine makes, I guess, gangster type music sometimes. Nobody gives a shit. Like people just were unable to take the character that was delivering this story to them seriously anymore. And that's kind of the thing with Travis Scott is like, is the message of his music not going to hit the same? It's like Bill Cosby. Nobody's ever going to want to see Bill Cosby do comedy again. Although I guess he does go on tour, but
he's not. He canceled it.
It's over. Okay,
yeah, it's over.
But like, it's very hard to take Bill Cosby serious as a fun, wholesome comedian when he's got all these terrible accusations. Maybe at a certain point, it gets hard to take Travis Scott serious as the artist he is, talking about what he's talking about. My thing, though, is like, I feel like he's never been talking about nothing. So it's like, there ain't no message to it. It's just sort of a bunch of auto-tune and whatever. But that's just me. That's my impression of his music. I don't know what his fans necessarily are taking from him.
Guess we'll see.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. Do you think the Drake and Kanye beef will ever actually end? Apparently the two of them have taken pictures with Larry Hoover Jr.,
right,
and Jay Prince. I know that Drake and Jay Prince go way back, and then Kanye with the whole Larry Hoover thing, the Chicago thing, and so forth. He got involved in it. Do you think that they'll actually sit down, squash their beef, make a song together, and kind of like how Drake and Chris Brown or Drake and Meek Mill ultimately ended their beefs? And
I think it's possible, but I think the thing is, if you're Drake, you're concerned about legacy primarily. You're concerned about how you're viewed publicly, how you're taken by the public, etc. I think he's just like a very controlling person that wants to control the narrative and wants to sort of, be the one directing this movie that he's starring in. And when I look at Kanye, I just see him being so volatile, so all over the place, so impossible to predict that I think Drake is probably wise to never really truly embrace Kanye again, because he's just out of control. It's like you never know what he's going to say.
Yeah.
And I just don't, there's a lot of people like that for me, where there's been people I've had on my podcast over the years that are just crazy. They're volatile. They're out of control. And I know that if I do content with them, I can get a lot of views, but I also know that if I bring these people into my life consistently, that bad things will follow. Yep. And I just think that Kanye is a fucking lunatic at a certain point. If I'm Drake, I probably want to keep him at a distance. And maybe you could be cool, but if I'm Drake and we squash the beef publicly, I feel like it's only a matter of time before Kanye sort of like goes against the nature of our agreement and says something that I don't appreciate. And then you're Drake and you're left sitting here like, well, why the fuck did I give you any sort of agreement that we were friends on camera? Like, I just don't think... I don't know. If I'm Drake, I'm kind of maybe just over it at this point, because I feel like he's given Kanye a lot of chances to be a good friend to him. And it just doesn't really seem like there's much future in it.
Yeah, Kanye kind of burns bridges with everyone. And I think a lot of people ultimately will just forgive him because he is such a force.
Yeah.
And he is, he does drop hits and he has a lot of energy behind what he does. So you're going to basically just put up with maybe getting yelled at, getting, publicly disrespected, maybe getting stood up, whatever else, because you feel like, well, career-wise, it makes sense for me to keep aligning with this guy. But then when you're Drake, when you're musically bigger than Kanye, now personality-wise, celebrity-wise, you could say Kanye is bigger than Drake. There's an argument. Me and Charlamagne had arguments about this. But music-wise, when you look at Donda and CLB has far outsold Donda.
Yeah, when you said Kanye makes hits, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, not on this album, really, so much.
Well, I mean...
He does do crazy numbers,
but... album still... It's not like the album flopped. Like,
Yeah, what I mean? Yeah, but it's not... it's not CLB. It didn't do those numbers. And a lot of people were disappointed by CLB, too, and I get that. But, I mean, at the end of the day, Kanye is not as big as Drake, so it's also kind of easy when you're the bigger artist and you're Drake to say, like,
right.
Why would I give a fuck about putting any of my energy into the public realm with you.
No, you're right. I mean, there's some people that, just like you said, I know they will do insane numbers on my platform. I've had bad experiences with them in the past. I will probably have a bad experience with them in the future, and I just leave it alone.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, all right, like I don't need the views, I don't need the money, because the headache associated with it is just not worthwhile. And when you reach a certain level, you don't have to compromise yourself for a few dollars anymore.
Yeah.
So you just let it go. And I think you're right. I think that's actually a great perspective on it. I think Drake just doesn't need a Kanye in his life.
Right.
His life is a lot calmer without it. I mean,
we've
they live
all
down the
got
street
Kanyes.
We all have a Kanye. Yeah, we all have a Kanye.
Most of them aren't as talented as him. Most of them didn't make all these hits. So we have, I guarantee there's family members that that want to have, you want to have something to do with them, but they're just too toxic. So you just keep them at arm's length. You might see them once or twice a year, but you don't let them in the whole way. Yeah. If I'm Drake, that's where I'm at. But you know that motherfucking people will just give rappers the biggest pass on being the biggest douchebags. And, I was like that when I think about my early days in this shit. I would have a rapper do some rude ass shit to me and just not say anything, just let it go. Like, whatever. He's the rapper. I'm gonna let him be like that. I'm way less prone to do that, where I just, I'm so used to thinking of rappers like actual human beings that if you do something douchey to me, it's just really hard for me to just, be cool with it and be like, oh, well, he's a big star, so I'm just going to let him get away with that. But with Kanye, it's like, he does things constantly that are just clearly beyond the pale, and everybody gives him a pass because he's Kanye. And he is a creative genius, so it's like, you do have to give him some leeway to say stupid things because he's a creative genius. But that being said, I feel like he's used up his passes in that regard a while ago.
Well, yeah, we talk about disrespectful rappers. I remember I even talked to you about this when you were interviewing Trippie Redd, and he poured water on you.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think I would have been able to sit through that.
Yeah. At the time, it seemed funny because we kind of discussed it beforehand. So then when he actually did it, he took it further than I thought he was going to take it.
He told you he'd put water on you?
I said something to him beforehand, I see that cup of water there. You're going to dump that on me in the interview? He was like, let's do it. And I was like, all right, let's do it. But then he took it he kept doing it. And he also did it at the moment that I asked him about 6ix9ine. So it really hit differently than what I had kind of agreed to when we were joking around about it before the interview started. So it was a little weird, but it was kind of planned all along. Also, it was 90 degrees that day. So I remember already sweating my ass off. So it didn't really, I remember having a lot of people hit me about that and be like, how could you let him do that? And I was like, wow, that clip read a lot different than it felt in real life.
Sada Baby actually freaked out on you on Twitter at some point.
Yeah.
I've interviewed Sada Baby. Yeah. I like him. Cool dude.
Yeah. Sada is a cool dude, and he's somebody that, since I met him, he's a good example of the, giving rappers a pass thing. But since I met him, he's always totally embraced me, and it's super cool. He had a tweet that I think was, basically, saying that a rapper was, weird for fucking with trans people, or saying that a rapper fucked with trans people, basically outing another rapper, saying that they fuck with trans people. Somebody on my social media team.
Wait. He named a specific rapper and said he fucks with trans people.
Yeah.
So who did he name?
Well, it was Tyga.
Okay. All right. There's been rumors about Tyga.
Right.
I'm not saying it's true or not.
I'm not saying, I don't give a fuck if Tyga wants to do whatever he wants to do. It's all good. Yeah. But Sada Baby had a tweet where he basically said something about Tyga fucking with trans people. Somebody on my social media team takes it, puts it up on Instagram. Sada Baby starts tweaking out on Twitter, and I'm like, what are you mad about? Basically, what are you mad about? You tweeted this earlier today. This is not an old tweet from 2014 that we're sort of recontextualizing. This is a tweet from relatively recently, or from today. And all that somebody did was screenshot and put it up, something that you actually said that obviously you probably knew was controversial enough that it was going to be a conversation. And he was so upset about it. And he was like, you should know better than to put something like that out there, knowing how the world is today. And I was thinking yes, I feel like you should be saying that to yourself. You should have known that saying that would be that controversial, because bro, there's been a lot of things about Sada Baby too that we kept on the DL. We didn't publicize the Doughboy beef, right?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't say anything when he lost a finger. We just
he lost a finger?
Yeah, he fucking. I never even heard the story about how he lost it. I think he might have shot it off or something happened to his finger.
Okay.
Like you can see it. Like I've just seen it in too many videos now that I'm 100% sure his finger's gone. And also like we definitely did interview shit. Like we did an interview while I think his finger was gone because he had like a weird cast over his whole hand and shit. We didn't even say anything about that, even though I feel like I was the first person in the media to notice this. You didn't know about it. But then I don't know. I feel like I like have not acknowledged plenty of things with Sada Baby. I felt like a tweet from that day was certainly like okay to discuss,
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of Meek Mill going out with academics saying, how you gonna repost our pictures of us, posting on Instagram with guns, knowing that we're on probation?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're mad at academics reposting a picture that you posted of you doing illegal activities. Right. You're mad at, I'm not quite seeing this connection here. What am I missing here?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, listen, this is we're the pin cushions for this type of thing.
Yeah.
And it just is what it is. It's fine. We're well compensated to do it.
Yeah. I guess it's just like Sada, like he said on Twitter, he's like, I thought we were friends. And I'm like, I don't understand how you think that us being friends means that somebody on my social media team can't screenshot something you said that day and put it on Instagram. Like that's just, you should expect that. You're a celebrity. You know that this is how this works. And I agree. It was an inflammatory comment and I don't know if it's true, but like that really lies on you. And that tweet was up for hours. So it's not like it was like a 2-minute tweet and delete either. I mean, I saw it when it was up for a couple hours.
I mean, I realize that I just keep my distance from a lot of the people that I interview.
Yeah.
And because sometimes it does seem like we're friends and we're friendly and so forth. And then when we have to put up something negative, that person feels betrayed. Like, Soulja Boy went off on me over interviewing the guy who he shot.
Right.
And it's like, yo, man, we hung out. We drove in your Tesla. And I'm like, yeah, we did. That was 5 years ago. I haven't seen you since. Like, I appreciate the interview, but I mean, we're friendly. I don't consider us actual friends like that. But, but it ends up turning to this whole betrayal thing, this whatever thing. And it's like, all right, let me just do my job and just kind of go forward.
I had one like that semi-recently where they hit me up to interview this dude that is the dude from Memphis that Pooh Shiesty allegedly
shot?
No, the dude who Back in Blood was allegedly written about, where he's basically saying, like, who took that shit from you, come get it back in blood. There's like videos online that basically describe the situation where there's some other rappers in Memphis that he was beefing with, and that was what he was basically saying in that song, and then that song just happened to become ridiculously huge. And I guess there's evidence to like what actually happened and everything, but at one point some people reached out to me wanting me to interview the dude because his hood did a remix of Back in Blood, put it on YouTube. It kept getting taken down. I'm sure there's like a re-upload. But they wanted me to do that interview, and I was holding on waiting for the Pooh Shiesty interview because Pooh Shiesty had told me that when he came to LA, he was going to do it. He never made it to LA because he ended up catching this case that looks like it's probably going to have him locked up for a long-ass time. Mm-hmm. And that was just a weird one because I knew it would be such a good interview to talk to the dude that had these issues with him. But then that would have totally ruined the chance of the Pooh Shiesty interview. And as it stands, I didn't get to do either interview. So,
yeah, this is why ultimately I have to focus on the fans and the viewers.
Yeah,
the rappers will promise you things, and then someone will get in their ear and cancel it last minute. Mm-hmm. I was Nipsey Hussle on Twitter said, "Yo, let's do this interview." Like,
what year?
Like this was maybe 6 months before he died. Was like, yo, let's do it. Yo, you have a lot of knowledge. We could talk about a lot of positive shit. I'm like, yo, let's do it. Boom, boom, boom.
Wow.
Reached out. It started to happen. And then it suddenly just stopped. And then he passed away. So it's kind of like, not to say that he stopped it. Doesn't sound like someone on his team is like, oh, don't interview with Vlad. Mm-hmm. And you know what I mean? So it's like, I can't count on anyone to be loyal to our platform, regardless of how much help we've given them. We did the Migos first interview. We haven't gotten the Migos in forever. Like,
but if you stay in the ops and baby mamas lane, that's like kind of limiting. You can get a lot of views interviewing somebody's ops or interviewing somebody's baby mama or interviewing their Selena Powell. Their person who's going to expose them, whatever. Yeah. But over time, like, I did a fucking interview with Selena the other day where she exposed so many goddamn people, and the girls that she was with were even worse, where they were talking about all these married celebrities who they were fucking and all this shit. And I'm just like, like we're not putting this out anymore. Like there's like they says that the one thing that was hilarious, they go, raise your hand if you fuck 6ix9ine. Every girl in there.
Really?
I'm like, that's one thing. I don't really care about you guys talking about him. But all these other dudes, like at a certain point, like it's just I don't want my platform to be sort of used for this, you know?
No, I feel you. I mean, Kanye ended up dissing everybody. Big Sean, John Legend, Talib Kweli, Just Blaze. Called Just Blaze a copycat. You know, and certain people like Big Sean was like, I don't even know where this came from. I didn't say anything about him politically, about him running for president or whatever else. And like he also owes me like $6 million. So this turns into this whole kind of, you know, oh yeah, well, what about this shit? And then, you know,
I tend to give Big Sean the benefit of the doubt that he is acting rationally in the situation, and that Kanye is not. Because I remember, like, recent memory of Kanye, what was he saying? He's going to give him back his publishing and give him back all this other shit.
Yeah.
And then that just doesn't happen. And, like, it's like for almost anyone else, that alone would be, like, enough for Kanye to be, like, really treated like he was this sort of devious individual. But somehow those things, like, never stick. It's like with Trump, honestly, where it's like Trump's done enough crazy shit that, like, any one single thing doesn't really stick. And I feel like it's the same with Kanye, where it's like, you could, like, even just that, even him coming for Just Blaze, when you made all this beautiful music together, you're part of history together, you should have respect for him as your peer. And then you just shit on him in this interview, and we'll probably never get an explanation, or maybe we'll get some weird apology down the line or something. I mean, it's just bizarre world that he's living in.
Well, he actually apologized to Soulja Boy.
Yeah.
In DM.
And that's why I'm saying the Just Blaze one's probably got to be coming at some point, right?
Who knows?
Unless there was a good reason for him to attack Just Blaze, which I assume there isn't.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, the trick to all this is that you just keep coming out with product that people like.
Yeah.
That's the trick. You know? Whether you're Kanye or Trump or Chris Brown or Tory Lanez or whoever, just keep coming out with product. Just say, okay, yeah, I have this against me. All right, this is going to keep coming up probably forever. And I'm just going to keep dropping product. And most people probably won't care because most people are just into the product as opposed to all the extra shit.
Yeah.
You know, and it works over time. Keep dropping product. People will eventually forget. And the people that really, I think, bash you the most probably didn't like you much to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
And they just have a great reason to even like you less.
That's when the great cancellations always happen. Like, I remember when Logan Paul filmed the vlog with the dead body in the background in Japan or whatever. It was like, you know, you just all of a sudden had millions of people who have never watched a Logan Paul video and probably would hate it if they did watch it, and don't watch any YouTubers. So everything about what he was doing was a total mystery to them. And they're going nuts. And you got tweets with 50,000 retweets talking about what a piece of shit he is and all this stuff. And it's at the end of the day, though, when you look at his career now, he is fucking gigantic. He's one of the biggest celebrities. All that shit is in the past, forgotten about. He seems to have done a very good job, you know, sort of changing his image. So he's viewed as a podcaster, and he's viewed as a, you know, a boxer or a celebrity overall or whatever. I mean, he's done an amazing job with all that. And then the thing that made him the most hated person in the world is just this weird note from early on in his career. But it says a lot about how charming and charismatic this dude apparently is, because there's been a shitload of other people that had controversies that weren't even half as bad that you never heard from again.
Well, yeah, because they stopped.
Or because they sucked in the first place. Because
they sucked in the first place.
If your hold on your fan base is really not that good, I've seen like underground rappers get accused of shit that was like the flimsiest accusation ever, and boom, their fan base is gone. Because their music wasn't that good. People were only fucking with them in the first place because they kind of had a cool aesthetic. They were kind of, you know, hip or whatever. And it's like, it's so easy to lose that. But then like Ian Connor gets crazy ass accusations. What's he do? He gets canceled by all these fashion brands. He starts his own shoe company, and he's making millions and millions of dollars every single time they drop. I mean, that's just.
But he went to prison though, didn't he?
But that was for something. I think that was a gun charge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he's still popping right now, Ian Connor.
Yeah, but he was really he was popular as like a model, and like he was all up in the fashion world and doing all this shit. He gets canceled. He starts his brand Sicko and his other brand Revenge, and all of a sudden he's literally, because like he's selling sneakers for like $300 that probably cost like $10 to make, and it's like, if you're selling sneakers for $300, you don't need that many people to buy them. But he would post the screenshots of like, look, I just made $4 million by dropping these shoes. And I mean, this is a guy who's just canceled. If you have a fan base who's going to ride with you and you know what you're doing, like he's still, after being canceled, he still knew how to put a brand together and how to make it have hype.
Once again, product. Yeah. I'm not into his shoes or his clothing, but I'm assuming they're probably pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
He's probably no slouch when it comes to the design.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. You keep coming out with quality product and you just don't even address the shit. You know? You do interviews to say, hey, don't mention X, Y, and Z if you want this interview.
Yeah, times changed a lot too because Dave Portnoy from Barstool just got, canceled. They're saying he had violent sex with these barely legal girls or whatever it is. He gets hit with that accusation that in the past would have caused like almost any celebrity to just curl up in a ball and hide and put out these apologies and stuff. No, he goes to war with Business Insider for putting that article out and calls out every, inconsistency, et cetera. And his fan base is rallying behind him to the point where the other day I saw his name trending and I'm looking at it and I could barely find a tweet about what he was accused of doing, but I can find countless tweets that are super viral about him attacking the publication that accused him of some shit.
Yeah, people cancel themselves. That's how I feel. I don't feel you get canceled. You cancel yourself. You know what I mean? Like you could look at the T.I. Lil Flip, or Ja Rule 50 Cent or whoever. You know what I'm saying? Like whoever is seen as losing usually just stop producing the things that they were best known for. You know what I mean? Like Ja Rule stopped doing love songs and ballads and singing and so forth because 50 tried to make fun of him doing that. When that's the only thing he was really known for. Yeah. People weren't fucking with Ja for like Holla Holla, like, the more gangsterish kind of tough guy shit. Like he got known for his songs with Ashanti. Then he stopped making them.
Yeah.
And then 50 looked like he won. Had he said, I don't give a shit about this guy. I'm going to drop another, always there when you call. It would have been over.
But this, I saw a tweet that was semi-viral at one point that I thought was pretty interesting that said, the greatest trick that 50 Cent ever played was convincing the world that he was the one who destroyed Ja Rule's career. And the argument basically was that Ja Rule's career was already in a state of decline and people were already getting sick of him. And it was already like, he had already seen the heights that he was going to see. And his career was pretty much already kind of headed downhill. And then 50 came in at the perfect moment to just call attention to all those faults and how his career was really going. And I remember that energy. Like I remember the Ja Rule stock price fading a bit around that time, even before 50 started going in on him. But I say that only to say that if Travis Scott's next album isn't necessarily what people want it to be, they're going to forever use the Astroworld deaths as the reason why, even if maybe Travis Scott just is as big as he's ever going to get right now, and maybe his music was going to kind of everybody falls off at a certain point, right?
Except for
a
Drake.
lot of this is
except for Drake.
Except for Drake.
Except
but a lot
for Drake.
Of these are
Drake is the asterisk in all this. He has not fallen off in like 15 years. But go on.
No, you're right. But I mean, that's an interesting question. Is like if Drake had the same concert and 9 people died, would that be enough to put Drake on ice for a while?
I mean, Drake is being sued for part of this, but but ultimately Drake is almost just like a casualty of this war. It's really not aimed at him. But no, I mean, listen, I know what you're saying, and yes, his biggest hits were roughly around that time, and he was probably cooling off. But as you know, in music, you are one massive hit away from being at the top of the charts once again. You know what I'm saying?
But the rise of 50, if anything, also indicated that the public really wanted gangster rap to become the forefront of rap. And they were kind of getting sick of this sort of like TRL wave of like Ja Rule and Ashanti type songs that were sort of running hip hop, because that whole era of 50 Cent taking over rap sort of made everybody else fall in line too, where all of a sudden all the big rappers are sort of headed in more of a street direction and a little bit less of a commercial direction. Yeah. Although at the time, obviously, like this is the same time that like crunk was exploding and shit like that too.
Yeah,
you know?
It's hard to say, man. It's hard to say, but I can say that, and I know both these guys. Like I've had long conversations with both 50 and Ja over the years, and honestly, I feel like 50 just got him off his axis a bit. You know what I mean? Got off of his groove and what, you know what I mean? Because really, he wasn't doing the same shit. Like he came back with Clap Back.
It was in the middle of the Fed case too, which is a
there was the Fed case, but that kind of came a little bit later. Yeah, no, I mean, I feel you. I mean, it's all, who knows? Yeah. You go back in time and you could redo it. Who the fuck knows? But the end of the day, I mean, look, you saw the verses. People still like his, Ja Rule's music. Think he did really well against Fat Joe.
I mean, remember what a loser they treated, like, they treated Puffy and Mace like they were like the fucking Antichrist at a certain point. Right. And then all those songs, you play Mo Money, Mo Problems in the club right now, absolutely nobody in the room is going to think about how in 1998, the hip-hop purist attitude on Puffy at that time was that he was the Antichrist. That has been stripped from history. That's something that opinion only existed at that time and now seems ludicrous,
Boosie and Lil Nas X. So the two of them have been going back and forth, part of which on VladTV, with my Boosie interviews. But Lil Nas X went on Instagram Live and announced that he has a song with Boosie.
Right.
And he seemed like he was serious. I actually kind of fell for it a little bit. I thought, well, listen, me and Boosie talked about this in our new interview. It was like, I mean, at the end of the day, nothing really bad happened between y'all. No one got killed. No one's money got lost. No one got maimed or beat up. No one got sued. Could the two of them at some point do a song together? It doesn't sound completely out of the, realm of possibility, but Boosie got triggered. And he came back with a serious tweet using the F word and also telling Lil Nas X to kill himself.
Yeah.
And I interviewed Boosie about this. The interview's going to drop the next week or so. And I said the whole F word thing I felt was unnecessary because that's not really how he talks. You know what I'm saying? That's not really the Boosie that I know and so forth. And what Boosie said was his grandmother was, I guess, dying that day. And in fact, he had posted up her memorial. She had passed away shortly after that, but she was basically on her deathbed. And here comes Lil Nas X trolling him, and Boosie snapped.
Wow.
Not saying that's an excuse, whatever. Some people are going to say, oh, okay, we understand. Some people are like, well, that's not good enough. He shouldn't have, whatever. It is what it is, right? And that's the chain of events that happened. When you saw that, what'd you think?
I will say this is that, I think Boosie being the anti-cancel culture voice in rap, Boosie being, the voice of maybe a certain strain of, conservatism within rap. I think there's like a lot of people who really want him to be that, like a traditional old school guy who maybe, makes the argument that society is embracing, gay stuff a little bit too much, et cetera. I think there's a lot of room for him to like win over a lot of people in rap by being that guy who's willing to actually have those controversial opinions. And I don't think that's a bad career move necessarily for him, because I feel like a lot of times there's this assumption that everybody in hip hop is like woke. And I mean, this is just clearly not the case. I mean, there's just very few people who really have like prominent voices in rap music that really kind of represent like a real progressive agenda. When I look at Boosie, I feel like he's kind of speaking for like a very large percentage of the rap fan base.
Yeah.
But I think he like really does a massive disservice to whatever kind of character he's building for himself when he says stuff like the F word in regards to Lil Nas X. And when he says the kill yourself thing, I mean, those are just like huge missteps, because those are just the kinds of things that we as a society should never treat like they're okay when it comes to a gay person. It's just like, you can't, you got to give them like that terrain. And I mean, I grew up saying the FAG word, constantly, every other word. That was like always said growing up. But, I had to cut that out of my vocabulary at a certain point. Maybe it might slip out once in a while, but I mean, Boosie using it in that moment, I was just like, I really felt bad for the fact that he seemed so easy to trigger in that sense. Like Lil Nas having such a hold on Boosie's emotions is not a good look. Like the number one rule of the internet is don't get mad. Like just don't look like you're mad. Don't give off the idea that you're mad. It's very hard to like win an argument if you're the one yelling like, I'm going to beat the shit out of you, or, you're a piece of shit, et cetera, which is like when he calls him the F word like that is basically like, it's like the equivalent of you saying that you can't win the argument through your words. So you just have to sort of like resort to like violence. Obviously it's like language is not violence, but it's like, it's as close as he could get to like punching him in the face right there. You know what he's saying? Yeah. This is, and I was, I thought that was a bummer. I feel like the Lil Nas X meme gimmick thing only works as long as people are willing to tweak the fuck out when he does it, you know? It's like as long as there are these conservative pundits to get mad when Lil Nas X, you know, wears leather assless chaps or whatever the fuck it is.
Whatever you
just need somebody to get mad at it. And I just keep waiting for people to stop getting offended. Like the fact that he's able to so effortlessly troll all these people with huge platforms is why he's able to make so much noise. And at some point, these people are going to figure out to just stop responding, right?
Yeah, I mean, because what I said was, when I looked at that whole situation, Lil Nas X made the video to try to get under Boosie's skin. Right? Purposely.
And he might not even been thinking about it that deeply. He might have just been saying it to just fuck around with his fans because he assumes that all his fans are in on the joke and they're not going to go for it.
Nah.
But yeah, he was probably trying to troll him.
He was trying to troll Boosie. And when Boosie snapped and went over the line with some of the comments, Lil Nas X can go, nah, see, you're the bad guy. You're the bad guy. See, I'm the good guy. You're the bad guy. Everyone knows it now. See. All I said was we had a song together. I was just joking. But you're the one that's using the F word and the suicide, and everyone's against that these days. So now you look bad. I've made the whole world get mad at you while I'm sitting there messing with you the whole time. I'm the, you know, in that case, I felt like Lil Nas X was the bully in that particular situation. Honestly. You have no song with Boosie. You know what you're doing.
Right.
You're not stupid. You know, Lil Nas X seems like a very intelligent guy, honestly. He doesn't seem like slow or, you know, like, you know, I've interviewed some people where you're like, this person's probably slightly
But you think
higher
Lil Nas was bullying Boosie in that situation?
Yes.
The thing is that, but he didn't say anything aggressive. He just trolled.
He says, we have a song together on a huge platform, having the #1 song in the country at the time.
Right.
This is setting off shockwaves everywhere. Right. Boosie's phone is blowing up at this point. Talking about, you got a song with Lil Nas X word? Like,
but it would be so easy for Boosie to, it doesn't really feel like bullying to me because it's not attacking any part of him. But listen, if this is the cool response that Boosie could have done, is he could have gone on his Instagram story and said some slick, funny shit that like poked fun at Lil Nas X, made it clear he wasn't going to do a song with him, and just said something funny. And every fucking person in hip hop is going to repost that, and those headlines could be just as big as the Lil Nas X thing, and he doesn't look mad, and he doesn't look like a hate monger, which is what he accidentally slipped into there. It's like, you know, I could just imagine if I were Boosie and someone said something like that pissed me off, if it really did make me mad, the first thing that's going to go through my mind is, how can I communicate about this publicly without looking mad? Like, what is my angle going to be to respond to this that's going to not show that you just flustered me?
Well, as someone that has done more Boosie interviews than anyone on earth,
right?
You know, I mean, that's reality, right?
Right.
I can tell you that Boosie does not play a character in these interviews.
True.
Everything that Boosie has done and has stood for is because he honestly, sincerely feels that way. Our conversations off camera are not different than our conversations on camera. He really does believe these things. He really does stand on these principles. He felt that when Lil Nas went on Breakfast Club and said, you know, fuck your kids, that he was talking about Boosie's kids, which I think is a very valid dot connection, right? You know, because Boosie obviously has a lot of kids and was talking about the effects of Lil Nas X's music on the kids and stuff like that. When he's like, fuck your kids, Boosie felt some type of way about that. And I think that Boosie really, he's felt like he's gotten to this point and to this financial and kind of fan level by not compromising, not trolling, not pretending, not doing things just to get views, just to get, you know, whatever. Like I would never wear a dress. You know what I mean? Right. I would never go out holding hands with a guy, you know, on a red carpet, you know, like a Kid Cudi, just so I could get a whole bunch of reposts and a whole bunch of views. That's just not me.
Yeah.
It's just not who I am as a human being. And that's the thing with Boosie. He's just not like that. He's not going to do certain things just to get a social media boost or a fan boost. And, you know, if you look, while the baby had to meet with 384 gay organizations to
is that a real
apologize.
number?
No, I think it was like
but it was in the hundreds.
It was like 9 or something. Like 9 or 10. It was like a large number of groups.
More than I would have assumed exist.
Yes. And he had festivals canceled and he had to do public apologies. Boosie, what I think a lot of people would say, what he said was even worse than what the baby said.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. None of his shows have been canceled. He's not on any major festivals, so he doesn't care. He throws his own festivals.
Right.
And I think that really shows the strength of building your own platform, not having to integrate into these corporations, these labels, these touring companies, these Live Nations, these Rock Nations, these Universals, these Sonys, this whoever, these McDonald's, what I mean? That you say, something, I got my own shit and I got my own fans and I'm going to say some stuff that mainstream might not like and it's not going to have any effect on me because I built up my own shit.
Yeah. But he can't keep an Instagram. So.
Well, yeah, his Instagram, he can't.
But I'm saying like at a certain
he went from
point,
11 million to like whatever, a couple 100,000 he has.
And he still won't respond to me on his tiny new account. But I don't know. Like I just use the Instagram as an example of like, you do have to play the game to a certain extent where it's like, I've seen like people I interviewed like get their fucking Twitter account deleted and it's like they're dead. It's like, you never hear from them again because that was their whole thing. And it's fucking weird. And like, I mean, there's a lot of examples like that where it's like, you have to, like, I was honestly surprised they didn't permanently delete Boosie's Twitter for that tweet. Like, I think they made him delete it.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. And I'm just going to say, let me say this. Facebook and Instagram are the most sensitive platforms on earth.
This is true.
On earth.
Yeah.
I remember we had reposted Meek Mill calling his pilot racist or something. Remember that video that was circulating? Yeah. Because I guess the pilot accused him of smoking weed or something.
Right.
And we have a monetized IGTV. That video got flagged and we got a warning because it was bullying.
Right.
I'm like, word, this is bullying? This? Like you guys are flagging our account? And it's not like we got our account taken down or whatever else, but I'm like, all right, no more third-party content. I can't deal with this shit.
But that's the whole internet now because on TikTok, we can't do shit. Like, the other day I saw somebody said they posted the clip of the guy pulling the gun on me and they got 10 million views on TikTok. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty crazy. And I said to my TikTok guy, I go, should I do one of those things where I kind of like respond to this? Because you can like basically like animate yourself over the video and talk about it. And he goes, I really wouldn't because TikTok's going to delete that video because there's a gun in it. And I'm like, it already has 10 million views. He's like, yeah, but
it's not you.
He goes, it's not, you didn't post it, so just don't do it. It got deleted the next day. He was right.
Yeah, no,
They take down everything. I had to fucking censor Lil Pump smoking a blunt on TikTok. I had to censor the blunt. There's all kinds of people who do skits and comedy and stuff. And they, if they want to indicate that they're shooting somebody or they're pulling a gun out, they'll like take like, a piece of plastic and wrap a shirt around it and stuff, which is, it's one thing if like there's these hard and fast rules, but like, some of the girls that we work with, they'll post a TikTok of them and they're sort of just, dancing around in front of the camera, singing along to the song, doing whatever the fuck every girl does. But because they have big boobs or because they have a fucking small waist and a big ass or whatever it is, they're just gone. Like Riley Reid had like 2 million TikTok followers and she was not posting sexy shit. It was all goofy shit. Boom, they just took her down. Couldn't get the account back. Like they're nuts with that shit.
Yeah. What do you think Kid Cudi wearing a wedding dress and holding that white guy's hand at the CFDA Fashion Awards?
I mean, if you're really gay, then that's cool. Like,
You think he's gay?
Well, I don't know. Like,
why
are you holding hands with a dude? I don't get it. Like, I don't know. That's just weird to me. Like, I don't like if you're just doing it for attention, then I don't really respect that. That's kind of weird to me. If you're gay, that's cool. Like, I have no problem with that. I don't think he's not gay, right? So he's just like,
he has a kid, but then again, that doesn't mean anything, but
he's trying to flare shit up, get some clout going, I guess. I don't know, because he doesn't seem like that kind of person in other areas of his life. You don't see him being all explosive and controversial. I mean, but you see him show up in all these crazy ass outfits and stuff, which, I mean, I try not to be super judgmental about people just like dressing weird. Cause it's like, if you're into fashion and shit, hey, by all means, go ahead. I'm not really into it like that, but go right ahead. But I mean, like the holding hands with a dude thing is like weird to me because it's like you're either gay or you're
trolling.
trolling, but using you being gay as the troll, which if I'm a gay person, I wouldn't appreciate somebody using being gay as the troll. Now, maybe I just don't get what the thing he was trying to accomplish with this was, but if I was gay, I would not be like, oh, great, like he's standing up for us by sort of pretending to be one of us. I don't get that.
No, I feel you. It's like you're almost mocking gay people in a way by holding hands with a dude when you're actually straight.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Listen. Clearly, cross-dressing has taken more of a front row seat in society these days. I mean,
but
Young Thug. Well, I think Lil B kind of started it.
Yeah,
Young Thug ran with it. Kanye wore a skirt at one point, but then he kind of abandoned it. But even Russell Westbrook took pictures of himself wearing a skirt, which I thought was weird as hell.
It's like these dudes just get money, and then they just want to do some weird ass shit to get people talking, and it's like, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know how much money I would have to get to like want to run around in a skirt or whatever. It's like that Harry Styles dude. Like he's on the cover of fucking Vogue or some shit just because he's wearing a dress. And it's like, people are acting like he's so brave for wearing a dress. It's like, listen, a dress is either like specifically associated with women or it's just something that anyone can wear. I refuse to accept that you're brave because you put a fucking dress on. You know, it's like, it's just an impractical article of clothing that you put on for fucking 10 minutes so you can take photos in a field for a magazine cover. Like, I know you're not walking around the rest of the day dressed like this.
Right.
It just doesn't, I don't get what's heroic about it. I actually just think it's stupid as fuck. So, I mean,
I think it's brave if you actually feel like you're a woman inside.
Right.
And a lot of people who are transgender do feel that way. Right. Like when you talk to, I've had conversations with transgender people like Sydney Starr and, other people as well. And, they feel like they really are women, that they just were born wrong.
Right.
And when they dress like a woman, when they present themselves like a woman, they actually feel better about themselves.
Because that's how they feel. That's
how they feel. Yeah. And I respect that. Like, if that's how you want to do it, I get it.
100%.
But if don't really, and if that's the case, then you're wearing dresses whenever you have a chance to. Right. It's not just a runway thing or an Instagram post. It's like, I just feel more comfortable wearing a dress. Like Johnny Depp was in a movie where he was a cross-dresser. Remember that? He was like a movie director and he was a cross-dresser. Anyways, you guys can look it up. But it's like, he was like, he just always felt, he was saying how when he was a kid, his mom always wanted a little girl. So she would, the character in the movie, of course, so she would dress him up in dresses and put wigs on him and put makeup on him because she always wanted a little girl. So when he got older, he would just put on these dresses because it just made him feel like more comfortable. And when he would get anxiety, it would just kind of calm him down and so forth. But he was into women and so forth. That's cool. I get it. But if you're just doing it to get reposts and so forth, I feel it's just like, it's not like these dudes, like Kid Cudi has a fan base.
Right.
Like he has a catalog. He can go on tour and probably get 100,000 a show. Like Kanye loves him. Like credits him with a lot of shit. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
And if he just wants to do that, by all means, live your life in a fucking dress. Go right ahead. Buy some fucking culottes while you're at it. But as far as like, you supposed to be like cool, like you're cool because you wear a dress, or you're an extra special person. Like you're such a creative genius. Like, oh my God, how could you be so brave and just so not afraid of what anybody's going to say? But then meanwhile, you wear a dress, they put you on the cover of Vogue and they talk about you like you're a fucking hero.
Right.
It's just the stupidest thing. This is a clown world we're living in.
Well, I Love McConan, I guess, went on Instagram, said that I started this gay rapper shit. And in a way, he did, actually.
Yeah.
He did start that gay rapper shit.
He did.
Honestly. And then he started going at it with the academics.
Yeah.
Saying, I made that gossip burger. I don't think McConan made academics by any stretch of the imagination. No. I don't know where that even came from, to be honest, but
I think McConan's been sitting back the past couple of years watching Lil Nas X and just being like, this was supposed to be my kingdom. This was supposed to be my thing, dude. And then he's like realizing like, oh, I'm not a troll. McConaughey's a nice guy. He's like a super sweet, sensitive individual. I've been lucky enough to spend some time around him. He's a good guy. But yeah, he's not a troll. He's not like, built for making people lose their fucking minds on the internet. And I kind of think when he's like saying all this shit, like implying that he made Academics or that Academics has a gay crush on him or whatever, it's like,
is that what he said?
I think I see a tweet like that earlier today, and it's just kind of like, I mean, he's right in the sense that like if Academics rants about him for a half hour on his Twitch, that probably might actually be the best attention that McConan's got in a while.
Yeah.
But I mean, how do you convert that into money?
Well, McConan never really embraced the gay thing. You just found out he was gay at one point, and then you found out that Drake dropped him from OVO, and then it was sort of whatever. Because in fact, like, I actually like McConan's music, and his music was really more just about drug dealing and shit, right? And kind of taking drugs and selling drugs and trapping, and like it was sort of like I liked some of his shit. Like outside of the Tuesday record, there was records that I was really fucking with, and I feel like he came out with the gay shit, and then he sort of, he didn't embrace it like Lil Nas X did.
He didn't get embraced for it either. Like, you saw all these fucking woke people that never listen to rap in their life just lining up to say that they're Lil Nas X fans, Not to mention...
Lil Nas X had much bigger records, though.
Yes.
Old Town Road eclipsed everything.
Very true. And also, like, little kids love Lil Nas X. Like, he has a big fan base, even if it's not really, like, the core of rap music. But with McConan, it's not like you saw, like, all these fucking liberal people, like, lining up to support McConan when he came out as gay. But he didn't, you're right. He didn't turn himself into this crazy gay icon. When McConan really, it kind of seemed like there was going to be a whole another thing in his career is when him and Lil Peep recorded all this music together. Right. And I believe were involved in a relationship of some sort.
I heard they were, yeah.
And then obviously Lil Peep passes like soon after that. That I'm sure was like super traumatic. Just based on my knowledge of McConan, he seems like the kind of guy that like is very sensitive. He's really feeling everything. So I'm sure losing Peep was devastating to him. And then the time when I really actually got to kick it with McConan, besides the time I interviewed him, was kicking it at Juice WRLD's house. And like Juice WRLD was a fan of him. They were just hanging out and stuff. And then boom, Juice WRLD's dead a couple months after that. So I mean, he's definitely been through some tough shit, man.
So Juice WRLD and McConan were potentially working on some stuff together.
I don't know if they made music together. I think that they might have, but they definitely.
It sounds like they could. Yeah,
it would have been an amazing combination. Same thing with Peep and him. Like I don't know if the Juice WRLD McConan records exist, but if they did, that would be incredible. But either way, like that would have been another thing that like I could have. If Juice WRLD had a banger song with McConan, I could imagine all the Juice WRLD fans sort of like having this eureka moment of being like, oh, McConan is a great artist that we could like he fits into like when you look at a Juice WRLD and you look at a McConan, like I mean they could do music together very seamlessly, but somehow the world has kind of forgot about McConan.
Well, I mean, look at what Lil Nas X did. He embraced it to the utmost. He started showing up and doing these spectacular shows and wearing pink cowboy outfits and being naked and high budget videos and
Masterful.
And then getting with Jack Harlow and having the number one, I mean, listen, who would have guessed that Lil Nas X would have another hit record, number one record after Old Town Road? I wouldn't have guessed it because that record was really an accident. If you think about it, a lot of these times, like, Lil Yachty's, first record was an accident, right? Because it was that comedian, that YouTube comedian ended up making a skit out of it.
Yeah.
A lot of times these things just end up being, happy little accidents, like, like the painter guy says.
Yeah.
But
shout out Bob Ross.
Bob Ross.
Documentary I watched about him was incredible.
Really good documentary.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. They have these happy little accidents and then they run with it.
Right.
And it works, right?
Yeah.
And look at Lil Yachty. He's still running. Like, regardless of our differences, I'm not going to say that he's a failure or anything. He's done extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
He's on Kanye's new album.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, McConan really didn't embrace that. Tuesday was his biggest record. I haven't heard any records after that.
But I remember, I have listened to McConan's more recent stuff, and it definitely doesn't hit the way his shit did at first. Because I remember listening to his mixtapes back to back when he came out, and I feel like he was like, kind of like really loaded off of hella drugs and just like freestyling for a lot of that early stuff. So there was a ton of energy in it, and when I've listened to his stuff more recently, it doesn't have as much energy. I remember when the last time I talked to him, when I saw him at Juice WRLD's house, he had just put out a single with Gucci Mane. And I remember him being a little like sad, it seemed, because Gucci didn't promote it or put it on a story or anything like that. And I I was shocked by how naive he sounded, because in my head, it's like, yeah, of course. Gucci Mane is not promoting anything ever unless he gets paid, you know? He's not promoting a feature he did unless it's part of the deal with the feature.
Right.
So I was kind of like, but that, again, like McConaughey's a sensitive guy. I don't know if he, like, I think a lot of the things in the music industry are kind of hard for him to take.
Oh, this is not an industry for the sensitive. You gotta you gotta deal with a lot of bullshit along the way, man. As someone who's been in it for 20 years now, like, you know, a lot of people would have not been able to withstand some of the shit that I've had to deal with over the years. Will Smith came out with a new book.
Right.
Said that he was actually jealous of Tupac,
right,
and Jada's relationship, his past relationship with him. It just seems like his relationship with Jada is so odd to me, because I feel like all they do is just embarrass each other on a constant basis.
Or is that just the only stuff that we pay attention to? Is that like somehow we've already decided that they have this like chaotic relationship that's not working out, and that also he's a little sus, and it's like people just kind of, anytime there's like a little bit of evidence that comes out that of that being the case, it's like people are like, yes, this confirms what we already thought, which is that Will Smith is a little weird.
Let me tell you, I had someone a while back tell me a story about Will and Jada and how they get down.
Oh yeah, me too.
That would absolutely blow your mind. Yeah. And I will not say it on camera because they will probably sue me. Yeah. And the person who told me is not going to get on the stand and defend me. So
it's in the hands of crazy people like Trisha Paytas, who, shout out to Trisha Paytas, but I one time saw that she made a YouTube video basically just saying that Will Smith is bisexual and that they do this, and that, and the other thing. I'm like, you're the only person I know who would actually come out and say that, because everybody else is scared of getting a lawsuit in the mail.
Well, yeah, because I wasn't there. I didn't see it. It's all hearsay. I can't even prove the person who told me actually saw or was told certain things. So I'm not going to go ahead and say it. It was just, just basically me as a person. But I'm just saying, like, you hear the rumors, and of course, every famous person. I mean, there's rumors about me being gay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever. Like, go ahead and find the guy that I had sex with. Go for it, please, please. Search high and low.
But there's there's like a lot of rumors like that in hip hop where it's like, I've heard that, but there's no way for I had heard a couple of times that 21 Savage was from London, or like somebody told me that, and I just was like, all right, whatever.
Well, wasn't he born in the UK?
Yeah, but like nobody ever knew that until like he got arrested for that shit. But like that was a weird thing when he got arrested for it, and I was like, I had heard that. Like I heard that a couple of times, and I just didn't really take it serious, because unless I have like documents proving it, and also I'm not really in the business of exposing someone's, place that they're from. Right. But yeah, I mean, I always will hear rumors. I've heard rumors about big ass rappers where girls straight up sitting there and telling me, this dude's gay. He hooked up with this guy that I know, and I'm just like, all right, like, I'm not even gonna go to work the next day and like tell my homie that I work with, because I just don't even care. It's like, if you can't prove it, then what the fuck does it matter? And it is very interesting to me. I'm not gonna lie and act like, oh, it's irrelevant, but I mean, unless I have like real, and also I don't want to be outing anybody, even if I did have like perfect evidence of someone being.
Yeah, I'm not the outing type. Yeah, it's really one of those things. Like, if I know a few stories of a few prominent people with gay type stories, but it's like, who cares? Right. All right, if that's what you want to do in your private life, cool. All right.
And if you want to hide it,
if you want to hide it, that's cool too.
Yeah, by all means, yeah.
I've said this before. I have gay employees, and I've had gay employees. Past employees also. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect and be treated like a human being, and deserves to have their privacy if that's what they want to do. And at the end of the day, if that's your personal choice, I've always been pro gay marriage. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like 100%. My thing is like, if this is what you want to do, cool, no problem. Yeah. I'd rather you do that than live in the closet and have it come out in weird ways, like become a serial killer or become a pedophile or whatever, because you haven't dealt with who you are as a human being.
Because sometimes when you watch like documentaries about killers in the 70s and shit, that's where my mind goes. It's like, this guy could have been just like a normal gay guy, but he fucking suppressed it so deep down and just acted out and did these horrible things because he was living a life where think about it, like you're 13 or you're 12 or whatever, however old you are when you really start getting attracted to women. Imagine if you could never act on it. Like the rules in your head were set so strict that you could never act on that.
Yeah.
I mean, and you couldn't admit it to anyone you knew. I mean, that's got to be mental torture. Like I really feel for anybody who has to bury that shit deep down inside, man. So, I mean, yeah, anybody who, any kids out there, I mean, just fucking be yourself, especially these days. I mean, I just feel like there's so much less societal ramifications. There's so many less people that are going to give you a hard time about that. Maybe if you're like 15, 16, you're in school and like people are closed-minded, but by the time you become an adult, I feel like very few people are going to really give you a hard time for it, even if it seems like it.
Alpo got killed in Harlem recently. I had spoken to him earlier in the year about doing an interview.
Wow.
And I gave him a price. He said, all right, I'll get back to you. He didn't get back to me. He made a video a few months ago saying how the price was insulting and fuck Vlad. I'd never do an interview with him, which was odd to me because my thing was like, well, if you didn't like the price, just come back to me and tell me what price you want.
Yeah, because I can definitely tell you what's not going to work.
Yeah, so, unless maybe the price in his head was $1 million. Yeah. And obviously I can't pay $1 million, so there really wasn't much of a conversation. But
my first offer is just the lowest offer that I think there's a chance that you might take.
There you go. There you go.
It's your job to say you want more.
Yeah, there's a counter off. There's a process to this whole thing, right? And he gets killed. He gets shot up in Harlem, where he's living at the time, with him admitting to 14 murders, as well as stealing from people, snitching on people. People like Wayne Perry from DC are in prison right now. And for example, I interviewed people like BG Knockout, and their thing was like, they're surprised it didn't happen earlier.
Yeah.
When you heard that story, what'd you think?
I mean, I just think, like, why the fuck did he feel the need to spend his time there? But I guess if you're probably looking at somebody who lived through all these years of, extreme wealth and respect from the community, et cetera. And like, from my perspective right now, if I had this crazy case, it's like, you should be happy to live in Wisconsin in a fucking one-bedroom apartment and hang out and watch TV or whatever your life is going to turn into after this gangster period of your life. Like, you should just be happy to still be able to do that, because the alternative is you sitting in prison.
Right.
Sitting in a shitty area in a one-bedroom apartment is not as good as, living this great, rich life. But, and to see that he couldn't leave that alone was pretty fascinating. But I mean, it's the same thing as the 6ix9ine thing, where it's like, it's like there'll always be this time period where you're like, I can't believe nobody did anything to him. But you only have to move recklessly for so long before that'll catch up to you,
Well, yeah. I mean, he actually was in witness protection in Maine.
Right.
And he left and went to go hang out in Harlem all the time. And if you look at the videos, like, people are like, he was like a local celebrity. People are taking pictures with him. Their Instagram had an arm around him. Oh, it's Alpo. Oh, everyone celebrate this guy. Oh, look, he's the king of Harlem, whatever. Oh, the movie, Cameron played him. It's like a bigger than life and so forth. And it's like, I heard he'd be hanging out in Harlem like every day on the corner, like Goodfellas. Like, what I'm saying? Like sitting in front of like a social club with his friends and just, with a bulletproof vest on.
He would be wearing a bulletproof vest?
That's what I heard, yeah.
Wow. So he was
aware.
Conscious of it. That's crazy.
He was aware.
Yeah.
But, and the crazy part about it is that someone I've talked to, and this is not facts by any stretch of the imagination, but sooner or later, NYPD is going to release their findings in this murder that was done in a public place, on Halloween.
Right.
So we will find out eventually. The story I heard, it didn't have anything to do with any of his old beefs or the people he killed or whatever else.
There was some new shit.
I heard he got into it over a girl. Wow. That's what I heard. I could be totally wrong. I've said this a few times on camera now. I could be totally wrong.
Wow.
Person I told me is pretty reliable though, but we could both be wrong.
Because I mean, even if you're the worst snitch in the world, or you're the biggest piece of shit in the world, it's like the number of people who are really going to kill you is relatively small, and the number of times that you're going to put yourself in a situation in which someone could kill you is going to be a relatively small percentage of the time. But if you are out there enough exposing yourself to the elements, then eventually you're probably going to run into somebody who wants to take care of you. And I mean, that's why somebody like you or me, is smart enough to, I will pop up in somebody's neighborhood and I'll kick it there for like a half hour and I'll be out because I'm just not, I like sliding on people doing that kind of shit. Like,
I don't even do that.
I pull up to skate parks in terrible areas sometimes to just like meet up with the homies and people be like, oh my God, I can't believe you're here. Like, yeah, but I'm here for like a half hour and then I'm gonna be out. Like, because I'm not, you got to stick and move. You can't just be like hanging around too long. And it's all about your risk tolerance. Cause I hear you, you're not trying to take any risk.
Nah.
I respect that. But
I'll stay in Calabasas, Hidden Hills, Beverly Hills, anything with a hill in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not even really going to a lot of events anymore. I really haven't gone to an event really since the pandemic started, honestly.
I was like that for a long time. And then I went to the Drake battle rap birthday thing and I went to Complex Con and it was, I mean, my legs are hurting from standing up.
We're getting old, man.
I'm like shaking 15 hands in a row and I'm like, oh my God, I got to wash my hands. Holy fuck. Because I got really used to like washing my hands all the time in the pandemic and not ever shaking people's hands. And then I go to Comics Con and I'm trying to remember to fist bump everybody, but I'm slipping up and shaking hands. And
no, everyone wants to shake your hand. I mean, it is what it is. Tory Lanez turned down a plea deal in the Megan shooting case. It's going to court, probably. Although he may actually take a plea deal. You know what I mean? Probably what they're offering him is not that great. And he's thinking he's going to beat it. What was interesting about this, because Megan went out and told the whole story on social media, right? That's set in stone at this point. Unless she gets on the stand and changes her story and could be potentially up for perjury charges, her story is that he shot me in the foot. Now, I interviewed this guy, Mo Gangat. He's a lawyer.
I like those interviews, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I like those as well. He said that it's a very interesting case because there's 4 people in the car.
Yeah. Megan,
Tory, Megan's girl, female friend, and Tory's bodyguard. 3 out of the 4 people in that car are saying that that's not what happened, that Tory didn't shoot Megan.
Right.
1 person is saying, no, he shot me. Yeah. So you have 3 against 1 in a way, which makes this kind of dicey.
The thing that didn't get mentioned about that, though, is that the one person who said he didn't shoot her allegedly shot her. The other one is the girl who doesn't like Meg. They are no longer friends. And the other one's Tory's security guard.
Yes.
Now, granted, are they all lying to the cops? Obviously, Tory would lie to the cops. Is that girl going to lie? I don't know. But, continue.
Yeah, it's a weird situation. And what Mo actually said, which I found kind of funny, was that let's just say he goes to court and he wins. Let's just say he's found not guilty. He could actually sue Megan for defamation. Because I went to court. I proved that I did not shoot you in a legal court of law, not a civil court, but an actual legal court, which has a very high, threshold, And now, because of your allegations, I lost these. You could actually say my record sales has gone down this much. My bookings have gone down this much. You owe me $20 million.
Right.
And I could actually justify it with numbers.
Yeah.
And that would be a motherfucker if he actually pulled that off.
That would be a beautiful thing. Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. The other thing is, is anyone in the media going to apologize to Tory at any point? If that is found to be the case, is anybody going to acknowledge that they were pumping a narrative that, increasingly seems like it might not have happened? I don't know. I always have tried to very much stay on the fence and acknowledge that if this happened, as she's saying, then Tory is pretty much a really fucked up dude and that we don't know yet. And I always tried to sort of straddle that line, which didn't stop Tory Lanez from sliding in my DMs and basically telling me I'm a piece of shit.
Oh, he did the same thing to me.
Did he really?
Yeah.
What was your specific thing?
Well, I basically said that based on from everything I've heard and based on, essentially Megan breaking down the whole situation as the victim, I said that it's more than likely he's going to go to prison.
Right.
He's now being charged with felonies. You have a cooperating witness that have given public statements. As a normal, rational, intelligent human being, you would think he's probably going to go to prison.
Because when that story first was coming out, you could have never guessed that we'd be in the situation that we're in now, where it looks like there's so much doubt about this situation.
I don't know if there's really doubt because, the prosecutors really don't play around like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
There's a lot of doubt about whether he'll be convicted or not, which I guess that was never the thing that was considered a safe bet anyway.
Well, he turned down a plea deal.
Yeah.
So they're willing to take it to court. If they're, nobody wants to lose in this situation, right? It's not like, the LA, prosecutor is being paid off by someone. He's just whatever. No, like if the LA prosecutor loses this very high profile case, they're going to look bad. They might not get reelected as a DA, next time around.
It's hard to fathom that Tory would have turned down the plea agreement if he was actually guilty. But it's also hard for me to believe that Meg went on Instagram Live and said that blank shot me if he didn't shoot her.
Right. So if he didn't shoot her, who shot her? Did she shoot herself? Did the security guard shoot her? Did her girlfriend shoot her?
That's what I'm saying.
Who shot her then?
Right.
She's been shot. I think it's established that she had bullet fragments taken out and so forth. I don't know. Like I said, what's funny is I actually sent him the links to the lawyer actually speaking on his behalf, saying, hey, we're not sure, whatever. He saw both of those, but didn't say nothing back.
Really?
I'm like, oh, so you're going to talk shit when I have an opinion against you, but when we actually put up something supportive, you're not going to be like, oh, thanks, good looking out. Like,
the thing, after talking about him probably like, a dozen times since that case happened, the thing that I said that caused him to freak out in my DMs, which it was to the No Jumper account, which I don't normally look at the DMs. So I have the whole social media team being like, Adam, look. And so I'm arguing with them. And they're all, at first I was sending them the screenshots, and then they're like, you don't have to send the screenshots. We're all reading it in the DMs right now. I'm like, oh, right. But anyway, it's like that he was so mad because I basically said that there was a double standard of the fact that so many big rappers, I might have used Quavo as an example, are clearly still like embracing Tory Lanez, the baby, etc. And my only point was basically like, in any other segment of society, for the most part, Tory Lanez even having that accusation would stop people from, if we were talking about like, Kamala Harris maybe shooting Dick Cheney in the foot. I mean,
right.
Nobody's fucking with it. And Dick Cheney's not a good example. It has to be somebody on her team. But either way, like, if it was any other segment of the world, just the accusation would pretty much stop anybody in your field from fucking with you. And it kind of says a lot about hip hop, of how willing people are to give a guy the benefit of the doubt. It might also say something about, like, if I'm assuming that most of the artists that are still working with Tory Lanez know more than me about what happened that night.
Well, they probably know his side of the story,
or just don't.
But that's it.
Yeah.
You. It's not like they all sat down and said, well, let me go meet with Megan. Right. Let me go meet with you. We'll compare the stories. Well, I decided to work with you. Nah, it's like, man, listen, I mean, didn't Jay-Z do Best of Both Worlds with R. Kelly after R. Kelly?
But he pulled it off the shelves before it actually even came out, because of the fact that those accusations came out. You remember that?
Best of Both Worlds came out.
It came out after the fact, but it came out, but Jay-Z, I think, got rid of the tour that was supposed to be with it and all the marketing around it.
No, actually,
he pulled back on that massively.
No, I remember that tour. I remember exactly what happened at the tour. They had a tour going, and R. Kelly refused to perform one night because he claimed there was a guy in the front row with a gun. And then Jay-Z's man ended up pepper spraying R. Kelly, and then the tour ended right then and there.
Okay.
Because R. Kelly, he felt, was just acting out and acting irrationally and fucking up the whole tour.
You're right.
But they were ready to go and do this huge tour together.
This is also like 1998 or something, 1999. It was like a long time ago. But I mean,
no. This is, well,
you're right. But
it was a long time ago. But what I'm saying,
I just remember there being a big dust up about Jay-Z.
There's a big dust up, but people don't give a shit, man. I think it's about the money at the end of the day. Like, yo, listen, am I gonna make some money working with Tory Lanez right now? I will. All right, fuck it.
But I mean, also, okay.
Do I have a relationship with Megan? I don't. Fuck it. Book the studio session.
Let's call attention to what's really going on also. When this thing happened with Meg getting shot in the foot, she seemed like the most beloved woman to have appeared in hip hop in years and years and years. Mm-hmm. Now, not so much.
You don't think so?
I wouldn't say so. And her new album sold 30,000 first week, dude.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And her one before that sold like 100K.
She won a Grammy though since then, right? Or was that before or after? I don't know.
Before that, yeah. But her new album, I mean, like, from my perspective, I'm seeing, the corporate side of hip hop embrace Meg a lot. I am not seeing the fans do the same thing. I mean, and I'm sure she still has rap fans, but I think the idea that Meg Thee Stallion was going to be like a Cardi B or a Nicki Minaj, I don't really think anybody thinks that anymore, right?
Well, I mean, because Megan, I feel, has kind of like one rap style. She kind of raps the same sort of every song, and the subject matter is kind of the same.
Yeah, she raps like it's fucking 2004, dude.
I mean, yeah, she has like an old school kind of female.
You rap like an old head. That's not good.
And it's like, when I first heard it, I'm like, okay, this is cool, but I mean, I don't know how long this will last. And, you know, I mean, she's had a great run, but if she reinvents herself and comes out with some big hit records, she'll be right there again.
Because she's somebody that I like have always really paid attention to, because very early on when I saw her starting to blow up, I realized that she had been sent in when I was on stream one of those nights where we're playing songs for $120, etc. Somebody sends in her song. I saw it and I remember like kind of thinking it was dope, but not really thinking it was dope enough to follow up on, you know? And then like a couple years passed by, all of a sudden, boom, she's signed and she's blowing up. And so I've always like really taken an interest in her career. And yeah, I've just been like really let down by the music in particular. I feel like she was in a position where she could have made serious rap music or like made stuff that guys and girls would have both appreciated. And instead she made a bunch of stupid ass booty records. And it feels like the culture is kind of, you know, I don't want to say they've like 100% forgotten about her or moved on, but I just felt like her career could have totally turned into something that I now have pretty low hopes that it could become.
MC Serch went on your show.
Mm-hmm.
And said a bunch of things about me.
Saw that. I was there.
You were there. I found that interesting. He claimed that I tricked him into an interview claiming that I would link his
book.
You know, in the actual video itself, and I somehow tricked him by not putting the link where I promised. Right. So I listened to this and I'm like, okay, all right. The interesting thing about that conversation that he did not mention was the interview came out, and it comes out in parts, as you know. Right. So the parts are coming out. I've not heard anything. You know, he's not hitting me or saying, hey, can you change anything or whatever. It's coming out. It's getting a lot of views. I think it ended up being his biggest interview ever, if I'm not mistaken. After the interview was done, he texted me. He said, hey, listen, I'm working with this documentary company and they want you to take down this whole interview, or they want to buy it from you. And I said, well, thank you for the offer, but, you know, unfortunately, we don't sell anything.
Right.
Oh, well, what if we give you this big? I'm like, once again, thank you for the offer, but it's not like we didn't talk prices. Or I'm like, I'm just not interested in selling my content. You know, the content is there with a bigger purpose and so forth. We never talked again. And then he goes on your platform and creates this whole story about how I cheated him and lied to him and so forth, not mentioning what I feel is the most important part of the story.
But even the thing he said was basically like, I wanted Vlad to put my link to my book in his description of his videos. And he, I believe, said that you did end up putting it in the link to the videos, but that it took a while and he didn't sell any books as a result. Or no, I think he had a GoFundMe to make a book, didn't he?
Yeah, it was something like that. It was like a GoFundMe, yeah.
I think he like holds you personally responsible for not hitting the dollar amount of the GoFundMe, yeah.
Right, let me tell you this. First and foremost, I never promised MC Serch that I would put a link to anything within the video, because I don't do that with anybody. Look at my 10,000 plus videos and you will not see a link within the video to someone's GoFundMe or whatever else. We simply do not do that. We've never done that. We never will do that. And if he brought that up and said, this is the stipulation of doing the interview, I would say, well, we'll just pass on the interview. So that's just a flat out lie.
You're that against helping somebody sell something? Because normally if somebody asks about that, I'll be like, all right.
I will gladly help people sell stuff. But we also don't want to diminish the actual video itself by putting a whole bunch of text at the bottom and making it look like a commercial.
Oh, on the video?
Yeah.
I'm talking about in the description.
It was in the description. It was in the description of every video except for the full interview.
Oh, okay.
In every clip, there was a link to his book. And listen, at the end of the day, you know, I'm sorry that MC Serch did not hit his like minimum on his GoFundMe project. You know, I wasn't aware that I was 100% his marketing arm for making this successful or not. I'm sorry that MC Serch did not reach his financial success based on the interview that he did with VladTV, but I can't be responsible for someone's success. I said I would do the interview. We rolled it out. It was successful. It got viewed millions of times. I thought it was a dope interview, but the fact that he failed in this project. You know, I heard him mention that he blames Lil Dicky for some TV show, not, you know, I mean, this is a guy that's blaming everyone for his own failings. Oh, it's his fault, it's his fault, it's his fault, it's his fault. And it really kind of just annoys me because MC Serch was someone that I've looked up to for a very long time since I was a kid. He was the first, I feel like, white rapper that came out as traditionally hip hop. The Beastie Boys came out before him, but they were more like kind of punk rockers.
Right.
You know, they were just sort of frat boys, you know.
It was cool, but it was
a bit of a parody. It was a bit of a parody in the beginning. This guy came out with Third Base. You know, I mean, he had a high top fade with the 3 on the back, and he rapped traditionally, and he had like cosigns from other big rappers, and he was on Def Jam, and it was an inspiration to see someone who looked like me, a white Jewish kid, doing it like that. And I think that part of the reason why I am where I am today is because people like MC Serch laid the foundation. So to hear him go and make up these lies about me and blame me and say that I told him this and whatever, and not mentioning the real reason because he just wanted me to take down the whole video is disappointing. Like, this is why, like, I sometimes hate getting to know the people that I look up to. You know?
I feel it. Yeah. I mean, I was surprised he said that, just because I had already noticed when I was doing the prep for the interview that he had that GoFundMe and that it didn't reach its goal or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just think, you know, sometimes people think that when they go on somebody else's platform that it's maybe going to like do more than, you know, like if you have something to promote. I just don't think like the average No Jumper fan or the average Vlad fan is probably going to buy a book based on an interview. Like, realistically, once I'm done watching an 1.5 hour long interview with somebody, the last thing I'm thinking is, oh, I got to read this guy's book. You know, usually I feel like I've kind of gotten what I want from the interview. And yeah, especially the GoFundMe, like it's kind of a foreign concept, I think, to most rap fans, that they're going to like donate money so that someone can make something in the future. I feel like maybe that's something that would make a little bit more sense to like other demographics. But yeah, I was surprised that he just thought that was going to move the needle for him so much.
Yeah, and then I get the blame for it not moving the needle enough. It's like, okay, I guess. You know, that victim mentality with people that I just really just always dislike. Yeah. You know, you always just blame everyone else for your failures. It's his fault. It's his fault. It's Lil Dicky's fault, my TV show. You know what I mean? Like, and this is the old school 80s, 90s rapper mentality of, you know, you wait for a bigger entity like a Def Jam or VH1 to cut you some big check, you know, as opposed to actually putting in the groundwork to get these things off the ground and really like build something on your own. You know, you don't have that hand holding. So when they have these projects that end up failing or never getting off the ground, they just want to blame someone else, as opposed to like, hey, listen, maybe I'm not set up to do something like this on my own. Probably should have gone through a bigger company as opposed to doing a GoFundMe. But it is what it is. I haven't talked to him since whatever with MC Serch.
Yeah, know, to me, if you're pushing a book, it's like, I mean, I know there's people who make money putting books out and everything, but if you're pushing a book, just consider your audience. Like, if you already have a huge audience, like Vlad, if you put out a book right now about your life, I could see you selling a decent amount of copies.
It won't be a New York Times bestseller.
Right, but I could see it selling decent because you have 4-something million subscribers already paying attention to you. I had a journalist dude like ask me about doing Patreon, and I was just thinking in my head, I'm like, you have like 1,000 followers and you're asking me about how to start a Patreon. Like, the last thing you need to be worrying about is asking your tiny audience for money.
Right.
You need to be thinking about building an audience and then trying, like, to me, if I put out a book and I sold 10,000 copies, it's like, that would be the reward at the end of, or not at the end, but after many, many years of creating content for free on the internet. You know, like if you're trying to get a message out or you want to get something out there to the world in this day and age, you absolutely pretty much have to give it out for free and then hope that you can figure out a premium version of that at some point or whatever. It's just, you know, it's not to just go straight to the book is, and just knowing that most people aren't going to read books. It just seems like a challenge,
too.
You know?
That part too. Well, Kanye recently announced that he bootlegs OnlyFans videos on Reddit. And you had a big problem with that.
I wasn't a fan of that. Yeah.
Right. Well, because your girl
makes
most of her money off OnlyFans.
Right.
And then, you know, we're going to talk about some OnlyFans stuff that you're working on in a minute.
Right.
But you had a problem with Kanye doing it.
Right.
Why?
Well, I mean, really, at the end of the day, I don't give a shit because it's like the same way I feel about everybody else who's bootlegging OnlyFans content or whatever. I mean, it is what it is. It's like I downloaded a million fucking records illegally throughout my life. I downloaded a million TV shows illegally throughout my life. The difference is that it's like, I don't know how Kanye doesn't think the optics are bad on him as a literal billionaire sitting there talking about how he, basically like sneaks past the $10 paywall that most girls have on their OnlyFans, like how this makes him look good. It's like, it would be like me saying like, oh, Vlad, on the way here, I went to this fucking local corner store. Bro, I took like 10 Snickers bars, threw them in my back pocket. This fucking Indian dude, he's never going to know what hit him.
Right.
I got his ass. It's just like, once you get to a certain point in your life, I just feel like, are you really still like sneaking around to like, and also isn't this guy Christian? Wasn't he like anti-porn like 6 months ago? Why is nobody talking about that? He's
never been anti-porn.
I think he was. He was super anti-porn
he
because
even said he watches porn like on Jimmy Kimmel.
But then when he did his whole Christian thing after that, because that was like the era of him doing records with Lil Pump and all that stuff. That's when he was. I remember the guy from Vixen telling me about Kanye coming into the office and telling all the just talking to all the employees who are like sitting at their computers doing graphic design or whatever at Vixen. And he's just coming in there and talking like they're all there to see him. And like just basically saying that like I think he said this publicly, saying like your website saved my marriage. Like he said that to the guy from Vixen, which is a porn company for those who don't know. And like he was super pro porn then. And then it felt like he started to do this Christian thing to such an extent that, I mean, wasn't it like the employees weren't supposed to have premarital sex at Yeezy?
Right.
Which is insane. And obviously, like, if anyone took that seriously, it would be a huge lawsuit. And, now he's talking about like stealing OnlyFans girls' content. It's like, if there's anything that you're going to spend your money on, you'd think that he would see reason to spend a little bit of money on these girls. Like, do we respect the guy who sits in the back of the strip club and doesn't tip any of the girls or throw any money? I mean,
that's Kanye right there.
That's cool. Like,
he's the guy in the back of the strip club.
I've got those friends. I used to be that guy.
Yeah.
I used to be that guy where I go to the strip club, I pay my entry fee, I get one drink, and I don't fucking spend $1 for the rest of the night for sure. But I mean, once you're a billionaire, I mean, it's such a weird thing for him to like think that that's like a brag. To me, that's not a brag.
You're actually managing OnlyFans girls?
Yeah, we got into the business.
How many girls are you managing right now?
Right now, we only have 2, but I have a bunch of like side deals with a bunch of other girls that aren't like full on management deals. But
who are the 2 that you're managing? There's
this girl, Sky Bree, and there's a girl named Stella. And they're both girls that I met them because we do this Patreon thing on No Jumper where for our Patreon, if you pay the $10 a month, you get to see us do 4 X-rated podcasts per month. So we have different OnlyFans girls come on, they talk to us, they do whatever kind of, reindeer games they want to get into. Some of them, the other day I saw a girl put her fist in her butt, which I wasn't really planning on, but she wanted to do that. The other day Selena Powell came in with a whole bunch of strippers and they all were just naked, like eating each other's butts and stuff all of a sudden for some reason. So we have a Patreon and an OnlyFans, which is where this content, at first it was supposed to be sort of like PG-13, like maybe they show some boobs, but the girls just keep pushing it further and further. Anyway, the 2 girls that we ended up signing were just girls that I had on the show, and I either thought they were like hot enough or just cool enough, and I just kind of fucked with them overall, that I ended up having the conversation with them and my girl and basically being like, yo, I really feel like, because the number one problem that a lot of girls have on OnlyFans is like, how do you promote yourself? Mm-hmm. They do the trades on their story of like, hey, check out this girl or, follow this girl, etc. That kind of has worn itself out. Like it's very hard to get like serious growth from doing that at this point. You can't do Facebook or Google ads. There's obviously no magazines or anything like that. So you're kind of left with like very few options to promote yourself. And like the No Jumper Patreon has just become this thing where like one of the girls that we managed, we took her from $4,000 was how much she was making when we started managing her. Within, I think, 10 days, she was in the 6 figures per month.
She went from 4,000 to 100,000
per month
in 2 weeks,
and a lot more than 100,000. But yes, and she's been consistent for however many months since we've been managing her. And I mean, that's just kind of like I feel like now part of what I'm trying to do is just create more and more inventory or real estate in which I can promote girls, because I already kind of feel like, well, all right, we do these weekly episodes on No Jumper. I don't want to do more than that on No Jumper. So we're kind of branching out and starting more platforms by which we could sort of offer promotion.
Yeah, I mean, you and I had that conversation when I launched my YouTube membership.
Right.
I reached out. I'm like, yo, I think this is like the next big thing.
Mm.
And you took it. You took that idea and said, okay, well, I'm going to go more on the adult side,
right,
on the Patreon side, and you killed it. Like you're making, I'm not going to put your numbers out there, but you're making way more on the Patreon side than I'm making on the YouTube side. But that's okay because it's very different content.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing something very specific with your brand when you decide to let girls be butt naked on camera. And for a lot of brands, it wouldn't work. For your brand, I might even say, well, I don't know, you're doing something kind of serious.
I've done it. And I have a lot of porn girls who like approach me like, oh, yo, listen, I heard that you're the guy I do the interviews with. I'm like, I don't do those anymore. But you should hit up Adam.
I appreciate that.
He's the guy that you should be rocking with for this type of thing.
Right.
Yeah. And, so you're managing the OnlyFans girls.
Yeah.
You have an OnlyFans account.
Yeah.
And I guess you have an adult podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's new, or is that?
It's launching in a couple days right now. Like I'm finalizing social media assets and everything like that. But the basic idea with it was, even before this Patreon thing came around, me and my girl kind of started having the idea of like, why don't we do an OnlyFans exclusive X-rated podcast where we will like interview the girl. This is a typical episode. We'll interview the girl for 45 minutes and then we have sex with her. And we've done, I think, 10 episodes so far. 8 of them were us actually having a threesome after the interview. 2 of them, like one of them was a girl and her boyfriend had sex. Like, the boyfriend came in and there's this like additional scene after the interview. And one of the other ones, it was Selena Powell. And we actually hired a male porn star to do her after that. So it's like we're planning on trying out a bunch of different stuff of having, girl stuff, like just doing all kinds of different types of content. But basically, like I'm so deep in the podcast space. I saw this as something that kind of hasn't been done yet, where we could like really fully merge these two things that are extremely popular right now. And granted, it's something way outside the realm of what anybody else has really done so far. But to me, it just makes sense because the one thing that, I like porn, but growing up, I would watch these stupid ass porn intro skits. And I just feel like, bro, this is like, it's stupid. This doesn't get me hyped to jerk off. Like it's fake, it's corny, whatever. For me, if I'm watching somebody have like a very real conversation for 45 minutes on a podcast and knowing that they're going to have sex after, there's some kind of like built-in appeal to that because you've actually seen what it's like for them to have a conversation. So once that dick hits their lips, maybe there's a little bit more impact,
Okay. Well, you were on Academics podcast and you said that you'd be okay with having another guy have sex with your girl.
Well, this kind of got spun out of control, but I said that we had considered it, that we had, had the conversation about swinging. And I think what kind of got lost in that whole conversation is that it hasn't happened. And like, we've never really like, it was more just an idea of like, would we be into that? Never done it. I think something that kind of sometimes gets lost with the whole, like my girl being a porn star thing is that we've been together for like 5.5 years and she's never had sex with anybody else besides me during that time period, males. And I mean, we had the conversation about it because I do know couples who swing and I find it intriguing, but also scary and weird.
Right.
So I've had the conversation. I guess the thing that I didn't expect was that so many people would be so shocked by the concept of it. And I guess that's kind of my two worlds meeting right there because I'm in the porn world where like, I know big time like star dudes in the porn world who are married to girls and those girls still go and shoot with other male porn stars. And it's just
whatever.
They're just kind of used to it.
That's just work.
That's normal shit in their world. Obviously you see with like the Will Smith thing, like, the idea that Will Smith would allow somebody else to fuck his wife is like so beyond most rap fans' comprehension. So, I mean, I still haven't done that again, but, we had the conversation. I wouldn't say that I've like completely ruled it out, although I also am not really like, it's not like I want to, I'm not on that cuck time. Like I do know people that like, that's their thing. Like they actually like I remember there was this guy at my gym and he was asking me to go to the club with him. And he's like a 50-year-old Persian dude. And, he seemed rich as fuck. So at one point I'm like, yeah, I'll go to the club, man. Hit me up. Like, this is like very early days of me dating my girl. And so my friend at the gym goes, don't go to the club with him. I'm like, what do you mean? He seems like he's got mad girls, etc. He's like, yeah, but his whole thing is that like, he wants to like hang out with cool dudes and then have those dudes fuck the girls in front of him. And I'm like a little weirded out by that. I'm like, are you for real? That's like his thing? And he's like, yeah. But the worst thing is like he showed me a video one time of a dude that he had paid fucking a girl while he ate her pussy like an inch away from the guy's dick. And I'm just like, oh my, like what did I almost get? I almost went to the club with this dude. I almost got like, I don't know what would have happened. I don't know if he would have forced me or if he would have just propositioned me to like do that or whatever. But my mind was blown. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of people out here who are really into that shit.
Well, listen, in my younger days, I've had threesomes where me and my homie fuck with the same girl. We'd be on either side. You know, I mean, we wouldn't be up on each other, you know, whatever else. And I remember, I believe that was the moment in my life where I realized I wasn't gay. You know what I mean? Where if there was ever a question in the back, you know, every guy is like, you know, it's the proper situation. Am I gay? Am I straight? Who knows? I remember, you know, in that situation, I'm like, I'm just trying to tune this dude out and try to focus on this girl. I'm not interested in my friend at all. Like, in fact, I wish he wasn't even here.
Right.
But here we all are, so we got to do what we got to do. But you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, there are situations like that. And, I mean, there's a whole cuckold thing where dudes like to watch other guys have sex with their wives or girlfriends.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, if that's your thing, more power to you. You know, I think people kind of freaked out when they heard you say it.
Right.
Because you have kids with her.
Yeah.
You know, you have a kid with her, and you guys are in a real relationship. It's not just like a side chick. You know what I mean?
It was interesting to me though, because it's just, I know a lot of people who do that, who swing. You know, it's just like it's a lot more common than you'd think.
Yeah. People don't just put it out there.
Yeah, exactly. People are hella secretive about it. And I guess I kind of like realized why, because I just acknowledged that we had even discussed it.
And it was over.
And people are making YouTube videos, like I was saying, like, this is something that I do. And I was just like, holy fuck, like this is weird, bro. But I mean, yeah, I would say the odds are we probably wouldn't ever end up doing it either.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, listen, I was friends with this one DJ dude whose girlfriend was the porn star Julia Bond.
Okay.
And, you know, she would go to work, have sex with dudes with no condoms, then come home to him and they would have sex, you know, with no condoms again. And
some guys love that. That's one thing I've learned is some guys love that. Like, that's like a huge turn on to them. I've heard that from a bunch of girls. Like, my boyfriend likes the idea that I was getting fucked for 4 hours earlier today on camera.
Really?
Yeah. Because the thing is with porn boyfriends is that there's a shelf life on that shit. Like, I mean, like I've seen it over and over and over where like, it's always been easy for me because it's like my girl's, you know, hooking up, taking sexy pictures with some girl, eating some girl's pussy. I mean, I don't care. Like, it don't really even cross my mind when that's happening. But I've seen it where like, you know, I remember Riley Reid was with this guy for like fucking years and years and years. And then something happened where she didn't shoot for a couple months. And then she was about to go back to work. She doesn't actually shoot real porn anymore, but just because she got married. But she goes back to work and he just straight up tells her, like, he's like, I know it's been like 4 or 5 years, but I just don't like the feeling of like knowing that you're off doing that all day. And I think you've made enough money and I really want you to stop, et cetera. And she was just like, I'm not stopping. And fucking, that was like the end. But I've heard that story over and over and over where the guy might be cool with it for a month or 2 months or 6 months or a year. But it just feels like dudes like burn out on the porn star dating thing unless they're really in the game as well.
Yeah. Are they cool with it? Or do they feel, listen, if I want to keep this woman in my life, I have to accept things that I'm not really cool with, but I feel like I can't do any better than this, or I feel like this is my dream girl, or the sex is just so great that if I try, and she was like this when I met her, right. So I can't switch it up at this point, so I'm just going to tolerate it until I reach my breaking point. That's what it really sounds like to me.
There's definitely situations like that. I had a crazy one the other day where we did a threesome with this girl who had been on the Patreon, et cetera. People were all excited to see me and my girl hook up with her. And she tells me like a couple of days before and is like, you got to wear a condom. I never wore a condom on camera ever before. And I'm like, okay, like how come? And she's like, well, my dude, she said they had a fluid bond. So I had to wear a condom and I couldn't come in her mouth. That's what a fluid bond is, apparently. It's like you just, and then even when we were hooking up.
I learned a new term today.
Right, the fluid bond.
Okay.
Even while we were all hooking up, she said like that it was kind of a stressful thing for him for me to be fucking her just because it was me. Where he's like, I watch that podcast all the time. Like, I don't know if it's going to ruin me watching the podcast or whatever. And that was the first time I kind of realized like, oh, even girls who are allowed to fuck other dudes in the context of their relationship might not be allowed to fuck me. And then again, the other day, there was like a porn star that my girl was trying to book a scene with. And the girl basically said like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to shoot with Adam. And I'm like, cool, this girl, and I know her and stuff. And then I realized like, I know her boyfriend. And that's why it would be weird, is because he's got to see me on TV and shit. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
The wild world of Adam22. All right, man, that's what it is. Congrats on all the success, man, all these years. Like I said, we've always been cool. We've always kept it 100 with each other. Whenever I've needed a contact or advice on something, you've always been there for me whenever you hit me up, vice versa. I mean, I appreciate our relationship, man. I appreciate the growth that you've gone through. And, you know, and I really respect how, you know, you and I are not going in the same direction. You know, we watch each other's stuff, but we have our own lanes and we don't try to really go into each other's lanes that much. You know, we have our own thing and we've all done very well with it, man.
100%,
So congrats on your new thing. You know, you got the new podcast dropping.
Check my Twitter. It'll be the pinned tweet.
Boom. That's what it is. Until next time. Peace.
Appreciate you, man.